the Newburyport Affordable Housing Trust. And I'm going, because this is a hybrid meeting, I'm going to call the members and ask them to say they're present. I'm Madeline Nash, present. Elaine, can you identify
Yep.
yourself?
Yep, I'm Elaine Nickerson.
And Drew Shapiro?
Yep, Drew Shapiro here.
Okay, cool. So, we have an agenda, which is posted, and the first item is welcome to the chair. Drew and I, thank you, for being here tonight. Do we have any public comment? Do we have any members of the public present?
Mark Cullen just arrived remotely.
yeah.
So we're promoting her.
Okay, great. Hi, Barb. Can you hear me?
How's everybody?
Great. Barb Cullen is
Yes.
present. Okay. So, that we were just recognize that there's no members of the public present for the public comment section. The next item on our agenda is a Habitat for Humanity Critical Home Repair Program update. And before we get into that, I do want to remind folks that we need to adjourn by 6:45, correct? Yes, so that Andy and Caitlin can attend another meeting. Is it going to be in this room?
It's in this room.
Okay.
Yes,
So we will
They'll be
realize.
calling up out there, yeah.
Good, so we'll be very efficient. The Habitat Critical Home Repair Rehab Program update. So, we have received the, home repair funding grant agreement for our review. And we have voted to allocate $75,000 to setting up a pilot program. I'm gonna open it up for discussion. One thing that I wanted to mention was that it's come to my attention that the executive director, Megan O'Neill, I think is no longer with Habitat. I mean, I just read it in the paper. You have not heard that?
No.
Drew, have you heard that?
I did hear that.
Yeah.
I feel like I got an email about it, like it was a newsletter or something like that, that noted that she was stepping down and she was retiring or something.
So it'd be good if one of us would touch base with Habitat and, find out if this impacts in any way their ability to administer the program. I would imagine not, but it would be, if we have any questions, we should add that to our list of questions. I have another question, which is, I wonder if, we need to have city council the council for the city, review the grant agreement, or, sort of the whole concept of entering into a home repair program.
Do you want me to?
Yeah, go ahead, yes.
I mean, just to clarify, if the city itself is accepting grants and they're taking grants in, it has to accept the grants. If it's, running a program, we would have to have probably some sort of authorization or starting point, but where the trust actually has its own authorities to use funds and run its own programs. I think we're really talking about here something entirely independently done by the trust.
Well, I think what my thought is, sort of just about liability in general for running a home repair program. And it's really probably just a conversation to have with Habitat.
Yeah.
I'm sure they require that any contractor has liability insurance.
Yeah.
I'm sure they have some kind of legal way to protect themselves from a homeowner who might be trying to go after them for something that goes wrong with their house. So how do we,
Yeah, I think, Caitlin, we could follow up with, maybe Sarah, our finance director, just checking under I don't know whether this falls under the city's general liability policy sort of category. Here as sort of like an arm of the city, sort of, that sort of function thing, but we can check on that.
Yeah, but just, I can imagine that Habitat has a way to protect itself.
Yeah.
And I would want that to also protect us.
Right.
And I'm just looking at my notes to myself. I think that's it. Just sort of liability concerns and, then I guess the next thing would be, once we get those concerns addressed, we would enter into this grant agreement.
I thought it was a little confusing, in terms of the amount per grant.
Uh-huh,
At one point, they kind of mentioned 10 in here, at another point it's 30.
and here it's 30, yeah.
Yeah, and here it's 30, but I don't think that's what we intend, because otherwise our program would be.
We could do two,
We do two.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if that was the intent. I think online their program says that the grants can range from 10 to 30.
right,
So I guess we should probably make sure it's clear in the grant agreement.
yeah, well, I
What we
think
wanna
it
do.
probably says up to 30. I don't hope so, but. I mean, I guess. You know,
Yeah, so not to exceed 30, but is that
Right.
what you really want? That would make it so we can only maybe assist
to
two households. Yeah.
because of the admin cost. Yeah, I mean, if we said 20,000, then you could do 3. But this is a pilot. You know, it does seem like 2 is kind of small.
Yes.
But
We can always change it.
yeah, we could, see how 2 goes and then decide that we might want to allocate more money to it. I don't know, do any of the other members of the trust want to comment?
I don't have a strong feeling one way or the other. I think, yeah, I mean, it would be small if it was only a couple grants, but at the same time, if it was impactful and they were good projects and it kind of was a good proof of concept to get this, hopefully get more grant funding in place to continue the program, it could be good. So.
Yeah, I mean. Everything is so expensive nowadays, that not being able to go up to 30,000 might prevent anybody from being able to participate. So I think as long as we make it clear in our public communication that, we're gonna try, it's up to 30,000, I think that it's going to be a learning experience for us, working with Habitat to try to understand how they determine what is an eligible expense to be covered. So again, this is a pilot program, we're going to be learning. But I think generally we want to keep it at up to 30 and limited to 75,000 for this pilot. So, Caitlin, maybe you and I and Drew can just sort of follow up on communication with Habitat.
Yeah.
And so that we can be prepared to enter into the grant agreement, when we feel like any questions we might have are answered. Great, so, I mean, it's exciting to be launching this. Finally, after lots of discussion, so great. Having Habitat available to administer it for us has really been a wonderful thing. So, next item is our letter of support, for the Brown School. Addressed to Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities. We have a draft. I hope people have had a chance to take a look at it. Addressed to Jennifer Maddox. Basically just saying that we're super excited about Zeta's proposal to the state. And that, reaffirming that we've committed $450,000 to the project. And, that's about it. So. Anybody have a, motion to approve from Bob? Does
Well, I had
anybody
a
wanna-
question. Yeah, I had
Yes.
one thing. I thank you for writing that. I think it was maybe you and Drew who wrote it, and thank you so much for doing that. I think they just named a new secretary, so maybe she isn't official yet.
Right, well,
Yeah.
I think that she may not be official yet, and I think that
Okay.
fine to address it to Jennifer Maddox.
Okay, great.
Good
Otherwise,
question.
it's great. I'm all
Any
for
other? Great. Any other discussion? Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, now, Caitlin, if I don't vote, we still have a quorum? I just want to
Well, I
check.
don't believe Barbara's been sworn in
Okay,
yet.
well then I will vote. Just trying to distance myself from this project. But it's fine, this is very
Oh,
minor.
do you want to make it clear, before we vote, Madeline, that I'm gonna be signing the letter because you want to, I don't
Yes.
know if the word
Yes.
recuse yourself is the appropriate terminology, but just you want to.
Yeah, trying to take a back seat.
Okay,
Because of my, professional role. I mean, I have made it clear where I work that I will have nothing to do with evaluating the proposal. And, so, but this is a very minor action here, very standard procedure. Activity from a municipality, that's committing funds, so it's really not very influential, but yeah, Drew will be signing the letter. So, Bob has made a motion for the trust to approve this letter so that it can be sent to the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities. Let's take a vote, all in favor. Barb, how are you voting?
She's not sworn in, so.
Oh, jeez, I'm sorry, I just see Barb and I want to hear from her. Drew,
yes.
Elaine,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
and I'm a yes too. Awesome. Barb, you need to get sworn in.
One quick question as a follow-up, maybe to Andy or Caitlin. Is there like letterhead it can be put on, or should I just take it and sign it and send it to you guys as is?
There's letterhead, can you stop in the office either tomorrow or Monday at any point to sign it? Or would you need to sign it electronically? Either way.
I will, so I can't stop by tomorrow, but you don't have like an electronic version of letterhead? You can just paste it on and then send it to me?
It's
Yeah.
electronic,
You can send electronically.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah, if you want to send it to me on that and I'll get it signed and get back to you guys scanned. That'd be great.
I think the one-stop applications are due March 16th. I'm sure Deb would like to get it before then.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they can put it all together in that package. Yeah, great.
Great. Thank you.
So, next item on the agenda, other updates from the trust or the planning department.
It's funny, I said the same thing to another board last night. It's like I just have so many things in my head, I'm not sure what to comment on. Because there's so many things going on, but, aside from obviously, the Plaza Landing's moving forward, I think, I don't know if you touched on it at the last meeting based on the timing, but the accessory dwelling unit ordinance, I do think that, Caitlin, chime in if you want, but I do think that it landed in a pretty decent spot for the creation of affordable accessory dwelling units in pre-existing non-conforming structures, given the spectrum of debate that happened around that area in particular, as well as the prior debate about whether to effectively make them all by special permit. I do think the council got to a pretty good place in their most recent amendment and sort of settling, hopefully, the AU thing for at least a little bit. So if you have any questions, but I think in terms of like local creation of affordable housing under that particular piece of it, given the but I'm sure, Andrew Shapiro might have some thoughts on this as well, but the spectrum of debate that's, and little particulars that are happening all around the Commonwealth, because every city and town has a different bylaw or ordinance. So unfortunately, it's not all happening consistently at once and all that. So I don't know what's happening everywhere else, but I do think that our ADU piece ended up pretty decent. So.
Like Drew just dropped.
Yeah, he was having some technical problems. Yeah. So, is there something next that's gonna happen?
Not on that front, no. The only other area the primary area that we're starting to focus on now a little bit more, there'll be other things to focus on in zoning, but is the story of the rest after Plaza Landings of the Story Avenue area. We're starting to look at that and, there's obviously an element as a consideration for affordable housing there. there's a bigger discussion to have about how many units can realistically happen in the city, just because we have water supply limits, and that's gonna be a factor at the end of the day for cumulative total build up. But just sort of, if the trust wants to sort of chime in as we're going along in the coming months about, you know, what makes sense over there. Some of it for the planning board is more of a design, kind of urban design, criteria, sort of, you know, reestablishing what that area looks like and feels like. That's, I think, part of the lens that they're looking from, but from, you know, this lens here, like, do we have a 25% affordable housing requirement like in the 4-year district? Do we, you know, is there other provisions that we put in there, incentives for, you know, additional floor if you're creating more affordable? Anything like that, obviously, it's another area of zoning that, you know, you could chime in on, if you wanted to do so in that process, but I can't think of anything else off the top of my head right now that's.
Well, are you thinking it might be a 40R district?
I don't think it's gonna end up being a 40R district that's submitted to the state like that. However, at least I had at least contemplated it as in terms of making it streamlined, permit process, you know, it's as of right. Rather than making that debatable, if you really want multifamily and you want mixed use, it doesn't make sense to me to necessarily make it a discretionary special permit to say. I do think you have to have the proper plans and design controls and it has to work there well. So I don't take issue with that, but so I think it could be either continue to be a discretionary permit type thing, or it could be an as of right, like a 40R. I don't think it's gonna end up being something, you know, it's up to the others if they, you know, the council and others if they want to do it, but I don't think there's gonna be a palette or interest to go to make it a 40R with the state. It'll be perhaps something ostensibly the same here locally, but without running through that program. But I also have found here often in Newburyport that there is always this desire, even where you could codify some of these design standards to make things by a discretionary special permit because it gives that extra level of control. So the board, you know, if there's something goes really awry, there's at least a little more backstop there. So I wonder here, as we get into the discussion, you know, how much of that rezoning or district will end up being more like 40R as of right versus does any piece of it, or does the whole thing still end up being special permit? Because right now it's a special permit to make multifamily. So it'll be interesting to see whether they, you know, toggle towards the same model as we pointed to previously, which is the 40R, or whether they want to keep a special permit review of some type.
Is there any opportunity to do that project on Story Avenue all affordable? Because if they price it for market rate, it's gonna price it out of,
The Plaza Landings,
yeah.
again, it isn't effectively our decision, but I've gotten no indication whatsoever that that's going to change from the parameters that they've set already for it, which is this 25%, you know, affordable at
Yeah.
80%. Yeah, I have no impression that there's any interest in doing another scenario or, you know, configuration there.
Well, with inclusionary zoning, if it was anything over 6 units, would have to be 13% affordable.
And that's another question for you too, is like in the discussion of zoning, is there any desire one way or the other to point to a different requirement in this, you know, that's why I think of the 40R district, for instance, because that's 25% of the units being affordable.
Although it's 80% AMI in the 40R
Yes,
and it's
yes.
60% with
Yes,
inclusionary zoning.
yes, that's true, that's true.
Yeah.
So I guess it depends, you know, so yeah, it depends on sort of how you know which pieces I look at, but I guess I just say, you know, because one thing that could happen here is there could be an overriding provision or some piece of this that's speaking differently in this district to the percentage of affordable housing or the, you know, so if you want to just stick with the default the way it is, or whether, depending on where the council and the planning board go, that, you know, how does the affordable housing piece fit in there? Is it just the default that we have in zoning today that's triggered, or is there some other revisiting of that or another parameter that's discussed? I don't know where that's gonna go.
But are you thinking this is gonna be a zone, an overlay zone, or?
It's probably gonna end up, it could be different things, right? It might be an overlay of what's already there. If there's pros and cons, and it's often debated depending on, you know, the scenario, how hung up people are, but it more likely might be like an overlay on top of it.
Okay. Well, so when you'll let us know when
Yeah, I mean,
discussions start happening?
I think before anything, like if you timely or relevant for you, it'd be like a couple months out, but like, if, you know, we can come in and just say, you know, this is where they're heading with it, you know, now's the opportune time, you know, or here's where the affordable housing component seems to fit into that beyond what we've already got on the zoning, because that's your default right now.
Have you thought about looking to get some kind of like planning grant money to help assist with it,
For that
area?
So it's funny, I actually got a planning assistance grant from the Commonwealth for that. It's not significant, it's only 50,000. And I was having a good conversation earlier this morning with a consultant and some of the planning board and city council members where the consultant was saying, well, that's not a lot of money, you know, it's to me, it's a lot of money, but you know, but recognizing that for like the other communities, for instance, there's someone working on like bigger communities on like $100,000 to $200,000 towards just the planning study, right? You know, we can't, you know, do that order of magnitude, but, no, I had gone after a grant, we basically postponed it for a couple of reasons, one, the Commonwealth had, there was some sort of bureaucracy thing, and then they sort of missed the fiscal year. The other thing was right before that, it happened, we had postponed because MBTA communities, everybody was so focused on MBTA communities and we weren't sure whether Story Avenue was gonna fit in there. So we dropped Story Avenue from the mix, we figured that out policy wise, went to the MBTA, Story, 4-yard district, kind of expanded that. Turned to pivot and go back to Story Avenue, the fiscal year missing thing at the Commonwealth had happened, right then, so we couldn't, so we're back in gear now, to pick up the thing, so we're gonna use those funds to do it, but the focus of the consultants work here is sort of primarily on the visioning sort of side of it, as opposed to maybe some other aspect.
Okay. Well, keep us posted. Anything else?
Andy, how's the timeline on that?
I think.
A couple of years,
Are you talking about the project itself or the planning?
planning,
The planning exercise, you mean?
yeah,
Okay, yeah, so for clarifying, yeah, and it depends on a couple of variables that could change, but I would say generally speaking, we want to do the visioning exercise as much as we're able to between now and the end of June.
sure,
To kind of, what does the community want, what do we think the future could be? And then perhaps summer is always kind of a recess, generally speaking, we kind of get anything mechanically done to the council or otherwise, right? So, it might make sense to sort of pick that up in the fall and effectively say, we did this is where we were thinking as a community, we thought made sense for the area.
sure,
Here's now a zoning amendment that we'd like to formally introduce to the council that is meant to, intended to, implement that. The problem is just that we don't, no matter what we zone for, we're still dependent on the private sector. And they don't always come in for every parcel altogether, they sometimes do a piecemeal.
right,
So, the urban forum that we want to create over there, and that we're focused on here, that is also incrementally hard to get to when we don't, control every piece of land ourselves,
yeah,
So, luckily, there's at least some big chunks to work with, and it could be done cohesively, like, Market Basket at some point, the whole parcel together, or
right,
this Port Plaza, the remainder, the big chunk of parking that could be converted to something else.
Right.
So probably, study planning, through the summer, and then in the fall, picking up the full zoning piece, I think.
Yeah.
Timeline.
although I was only concerned about, really concerned about the opportunity for a development entity to use the park and ride lot, those 9 acres, to do something significant.
Yeah, thank you, actually, for me, if your question is probably along the lines of that, the general conversation that I've been privy to thus far, and most, where we talk with some bank members and council members. Partly because of the water supply discussion we've had, we've decided to kind of peel away that area or that parcel, at least for now, from our consideration of additional sort of residential being added. Doesn't mean that the Commonwealth might come back and have a conversation with us about it, but partly because we were starting to see where we were landing for total build out capacity for water. It seemed to suggest that we keep, our focus on the city's land as effectively our zoning areas, as opposed to the Mass DOT land that we don't control.
On that issue of water, my neighbor put an artesian well in, and he got 80 PSI pressure out of it. And he's got an incredible water supply. What about them just putting in an artesian well up there?
I can't speak to what would work or what wouldn't and where.
Because
so
the city has one just up the street.
Yeah, again, I only know that over the years, having talked to some of the water supply department folks, they've tested around the city in different areas for like full city wells.
Right.
I don't know what kind of other studies they've done. I don't know whether they'd be open or interested. I don't know how that works for them. I think they primarily work with larger, these larger primary facilities.
Sure.
But as far as I know, they've also done testing around the city for something of that nature anyway, and found that there isn't any other spot, as far as I can tell, over the years that they could use,
Yeah. But they gotta get out 600 feet. That's what he did.
Understood.
Like my next door neighbor on Summers Place.
Yeah, and
And the unbelievable quality of water.
yeah, I don't know I don't know fully the extent of like underground aquifers and whatnot, so I don't know how much study they've done or how much they will have or how deep they have to go, or I just know that in the little information I have suggests that
Sure.
they feel like they've looked at everything in the city's land that they think would be viable or worthwhile doing, but
Sure.
it's worth, you could ask Pete King over there in the water department whether that's something that they think might be viable.
I see that Drew is back. I don't know, Andy, if you wanted to ask Drew if he had any comment about planning around the Story Ave
Oh, yeah, just that we're picking up at the planning board and the city council, a rezoning, study of the Story Avenue area and sort of after the plaza landings, again, assuming that's gonna get underway with construction, that what happens with the rest of the area, what do we wanna have happen? So recognizing that like multifamily is allowed only by special permit, it's actually technically required to go to 2 boards, so, does that become something closer to like a 4-yard district, or what kind of scale of development? We have to talk a little bit about how many units, is realistic and makes sense, but if in the coming months, I think what would make sense, what I was saying was that Kayla and I could come back and say, here's where the group is going with some of that, and it now might be the time to interject, where we're gonna talk about the affordable housing element of that, because otherwise, we're pointing to the existing provisions in zoning. Do we point to something else? Do we change? Do you want to revisit that parameter for any reason? But otherwise, this study exercise is largely, for the planning board's purposes anyway, is largely focused on the urban form part of that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for that update. Yeah, I don't really have a comment at this point. But that's interesting to know, and definitely try to keep tabs on that process. That's great.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just wanted to ask, one of the things I noticed in your staff report, Caitlin mentioned that Barb was going to try to reach out to real estate agents in the community about our down payment assistance program. Barb, have you had a chance to do that?
Oh, Barb, you're muted. Oh, Barb, you're muted.
Okay, sorry.
It's okay.
So I called in because my audio on the laptop is not working. So I was listening on the phone. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, yes. I had reached out to a number of Newburyport brokers and shared a link that I had received from Caitlin or on one of our group emails about it. I received an email and I sent that out. I think it would be great to have a discussion because I think that most people get bombarded by emails.
Mhm.
And would it make sense to maybe invite discussion or maybe have some event? I only sent out one email and it went to about 250 local real estate agents. I'm happy to send out additional emails or even to set up an event. I do have a commercial event coming up with commercial realtors, and I could set up a secondary event with residential realtors.
I know that we do have a presentation ready to go. Suzanne Cameron once gave one, when we first started this program, that I could pass on.
Yeah,
That
is
would
it,
be
what kind of a
helpful.
presentation?
It's like a
is it?
PowerPoint presentation,
Okay.
that any one of us could probably walk through.
Well,
That would be helpful.
yeah, Barb, let's put that on a to-do list to try to get that out. I mean, spring is right around the corner. People are gonna be looking for places to buy. It would be great to make sure that people know about this program. So I mean, if you could forward that presentation to Barb, and then Barb, if you have any questions about it, I mean, it's not super complicated, right? It's just,
No,
we
just
wanna
need
make
keep getting the
sure
word
that,
out. and
right,
to
right.
As many outlets as we can. So Barb, whatever you do to help would be really great.
Lynn, thank you.
Yeah, let us know if you have any questions, or if you need some support from other trust members. Okay, so unless there's anything else we want to talk about, we had a pretty short agenda for tonight. Do we want to talk about a next meeting date?
Guess I'll just mention that, Madeline and Drew are gonna present to the CPC
Oh, yeah.
next week.
That's right.
For the
March
careers
5th.
grant. Yeah.
Yeah, Drew put together a great slideshow. And do you know, Caitlin, the meeting starts at 7, and are we first on?
I can put you first, if you'd like to go
Well,
first.
I don't know, Drew, do you want to be first?
Probably, right?
Why not?
That's, I guess it's a dangerous proposition, right? It's like you're setting a standard. Yeah, no, I'm happy to go first if that's, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, on the agenda for the CPC.
Yeah, no, I'm happy.
Yeah, I mean, I am now available, right? I had a conflict which went away, so I can be there at 7. It's all virtual, right?
No, it's in person.
Oh, it is in person. Oh, I'm glad I asked. It's never been in
But there
person
is a Zoom
before.
option.
It's
if
Zoom
you
option.
Cannot make it to senior center, but I think they probably
It's a little
want to see
easier to
you.
communicate in person.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So Drew, is that okay to be at the senior center in person on March 5th?
Yep, I believe that will be fine. I'm just double checking my calendar here to make sure. I did put it on my calendar, so I can't imagine there's going to be a conflict. Yep, I should be there. No problem.
Okay, so yeah, if you can put us first, if you don't have a problem with that, Drew, or second. If you prefer, I'm letting Drew do the talking. I'm there as backup.
First is fine. That's totally fine. And then the presentation, Caitlin, so you have it now. So can you make sure it goes wherever it needs to go?
The application, and then we'll have it ready for you next week. And the meeting is here in the boardroom, and we'll just, click right through it. And then they'll ask you questions, and your whole item is probably no more than 10 minutes. It's very quick.
Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'll present, and then all the hard questions will come in, and I'll defer to Madeline. That's what we'll do.
And do we since I haven't done this in person, at least for a while, do you get up to a podium or is
It's
it?
in this room.
Yeah, okay, so there's no
Depending on how
podium.
many people are here, people have actually been standing right up here, like right where I am, and speaking.
Great,
Standing on a soapbox.
all right, well, that's great. I'm glad it got clarified that it's preferably in person, and I will definitely be here. Okay, so let's talk about next meeting date. Do you have something to suggest, Caitlin?
Got the calendar here. Do you have a preference on when you think, I don't know if we have anything pressing coming up that we need to meet,
No, I mean, we might.
in March, or would you like to look to April?
The only thing I can think about is if we have discussion about the home repair program. I feel like we don't necessarily need to meet to approve anything about it, but I guess my answer to your question is can't think of anything that is timely that, we need to meet about.
I'm not saying, sorry to interrupt. The only other thing was, and I don't know what the timing is on this, but just a heads up to Caitlin and Andy. Stephanie sent us her language for the demolition delay changes, and she was asking for affordable housing trust support. And so I don't know if it's worthy of a discuss, like after we've had a chance to review it a little bit, discussing it and then potentially, I'm not saying it is something we would need to discuss.
Oh, yeah, I guess the only thing that immediately comes to mind for that for me is more, I'm thinking just scheduling wise, because there'd be advertisement, a planning board meeting on that, right, joint public hearing, or, oh, sorry, that's the general ordinance, sorry. Yeah, so that one wouldn't have the planning board piece with the advertisement, but yeah, I guess it depends on when you want to comment back. It's probably gonna be in the council committee for a month or two, policy level discussion. It might be, a couple months, so I think you have time to meet.
Right.
If it was in April.
Okay.
So maybe if we could have that, is it an ordinance
It's an
amendment?
ordinance, yeah.
Have that circulated to trust members, just
And
so people can take a look at it.
It's, it's already Kathleen Sullivan, the city clerk, just posted the city
Okay.
council packet for Monday, and it's gonna be in there.
Okay,
So,
okay.
it
So
looks like
people
it
should
might have
take a
just
look
been
at it.
posted. Yeah,
Okay,
we can pull it out of the packet that Kathleen was posting. Sorry?
Demo delay?
That's the one where, proposes to amend that one for the timeframe extensions that, Biff and the commission were talking about, some of those pieces. Yeah.
Madam, what building is that he's talking about?
it's no specific building, it's just
The
a,
ordinance.
The general ordinance, a trigger, they're talking about basically lengthening the, time going back, some of these, so. And also lengthening the amount of time when the delay is, takes effect, it lasts for 3 years as opposed to lasting for just a year as a delay. Seeing that a lot of developers like just just the process they're doing for other things will take a year, so the year doesn't really have much effect, just sort of the.
Yeah, I guess Stephanie thought that the trust might be interested because of the whole issue of tearing down modest homes to build very, very large homes.
That's right.
So
That does help.
I think that's the concept, right?
Yeah, I think she's assuming that there's a nexus there. If you guys may want to call it.
Mhm. Okay, so we should all, if, when you're able, circulate that in amendment or proposed amendment, then trust members can take a look at it and, we can, those who are interested can attend the Planning and Development Committee meeting and learn more about it. It's great that people are looking at ways to address the tear down issue, and the mansionization issue that we're seeing in Newburyport and other places. Okay, so, I love it when we don't meet on Wednesdays, because I usually go into Boston on Wednesday. But I also realize that there are other meetings on Thursday, so I can be flexible. But I think, late March, early April would be a good,
What about, April 2nd?
that sounds
There's
good.
nothing on the calendar.
Other
Does
trust
that work for
members,
you all online, April 2nd?
That works for me.
April 2nd's fine.
6 o'clock?
Yep.
Great. Senior Center.
I-
Perfect.
There's a possibility I might be out of town, but right, but I think I'm okay. I just realized it's a possibility, but
Okay, that's fine. As long as we have a
For
quorum.
me too.
Okay. And who
see,
knows
well,
that-
actually, I am going out of town the 3rd, and one of the people I'm traveling with may be staying with me, and I would have to entertain that person. That's the problem I have.
What better entertainment than bringing them to an affordable housing trust meeting?
There you go. There
I
you
mean,
go.
Come
More the
on.
merrier. So what about, April 9th? Is that, you're probably still out of town knowing you,
I'm
Elaine.
coming home on the 9th. Yeah. Yeah.
What about April 1st?
April Fool's Day.
I know.
Board meeting?
It's a Wednesday.
Board meeting.
You have a
That's
board
Wednesday.
meeting?
Board
Planning
meeting.
board, so that won't work. What about March 31st? Tuesday night, have we ever met on a Tuesday?
Oh yeah, I could do that.
I could do it.
You do it.
Does that work for you, Caitlin?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's pencil that in. And if we feel like there is not a reason to meet, we can push it to a later date. I don't want to meet just to meet.
Sounds good. Okay.
Great. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
I'm gonna be bold and second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you all. Hope to see you around town.
Thank you, everybody.
All right. Take care, everybody.
Good night.